How do vaccine producers get to the point of developing a safe and effective vaccine? What is the rubric for approving a vaccine at the CDC? And how do we ensure adequate supply and an equitable distribution of the COVID vaccine? Our next guests are going to help us understand these processes and more. Dr. Simone Blayer is Global Head of Chemistry, Manufacturing, and Control at the Center for Vaccine Innovation and Access. I think we've got at FAAP, a global nonprofit focused. I think let's jump over to the next. See, we have the wrong gentleman up there. Can we get Simone Blayer on? Just to say, there we go. And so he's been focused on public health for a long time. José Romero is the Secretary of Health for Arkansas and also serves as chairman of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices at the CDC. And Karyne Jones, we'll go back to Karyne, is President and CEO of the National Caucus and Center on Black Aging, one of the great organizations in this country, huge. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Let me start with Dr. Romero. You are responsible for health and for the citizens of the state of Arkansas. I was, talking to one of our guests earlier, to thinking back a year and 3 months ago where we were in this country. And you can kind of look at this period of time of great anguish and great miracles. And I'd just love to get your dashboard about what you think we've done really well and what you're still worried about as far as COVID-19 and what it's doing to our society.
Yes, well, thank you for having me here, Mr. Clemons. I think what we've done well is towards the end of last year, we managed to ramp up our testing and really begin to focus on identification of foci of infection and trying to control it through that measures. Certainly, we've had an onslaught of cases over the year. I think one of the things that we've done extremely well is the development and rapid progression of approval of a vaccine that is available for the public. I think that is the salient issue that we have done, first and foremost, done well in this country and really are on the threshold of bringing this under control if we can deal with issues such as delivery and vaccine hesitancy.
Before I jump to the other guests, do you sort of feel like that nexus, that overlap between both domestic and global manufacturing, what the pharmaceuticals have done, and getting it to the last mile, getting it in someone's arm, has that come together for Arkansas pretty well?
I think it's come together for us. I mean, we are getting vaccine. I think we could do with more vaccine at this time. We have begun to reach out to multiple populations, and in particular the minority populations in our state, to make sure that they have access to this vaccine. Equitable delivery of this vaccine has been paramount in the eyes of the ACIP, that is the CDC's ACIP, and my state. We want to make sure that we're addressing those healthcare disparities that we identified during the COVID outbreak here, and that have been in existence for many decades. So we are starting to getting it out. I think my biggest concern at this time is vaccine hesitancy. That we're not seeing as many people as I wish we would go forward. And I can give more specifics about that with regards to percentages and numbers, if you wish.
We'd love to come back. Karyne, I know that you've been working doggedly to try to deal with the issues of inequities in health justice, kind of for a long time. And I know the Biden administration is, I just saw today an announcement they'd put $6 billion aside, to begin reaching into communities of color, other disadvantaged and marginalized communities in the country. I guess my question is sort of a weird one. It's great to have, Secretary Romero here and also Simone, but when you kind of look at this point, when you talk about vaccine hesitancy, you talk about we have a shortage of the vaccine, so it's really hard to get, on that CVS or Walgreens or Max Vaccination site. And then we talk about communities where there's been institutionalized neglect. I guess the question was, if you were to fix that problem, what are the key elements of getting the people who haven't been part of the health care justice system in permanently, and how do we deal with vaccine hesitancy, which we're going to be discussing later in the program too?
Well, that's exactly what the COVID-19 Vaccination and Education Equity Project is all about. We convened with my other partners, the Alliance for Aging Research, and healthy women. And we so far have grown our coalition to 175 partner organizations that represent a wide variety of diverse communities, because the one thing we know is that people will listen to trusted voices and trusted messages. So we have gone to as far as grassroots levels to make sure that people understand that we're, number one, we're all in this together, that the vaccine is important. We are telling them that we have followed this process in terms of the clinical trials, the review process, everything, to make sure that they understand that this is safe and this is something that we have to do, not only for individuals, but for their families and for the community at large.
I want to just raise one vignette. I would like to keep these things real with human. I was in a CVS in Bowie, Maryland recently, and there was an elder gentleman. I guess he was African American, about 80. And he was trying to get his vaccine. And he showed up and says, "How can I get on? Every time I call, I can't get on." He was very frustrated. He was trying. And I told him, and I said, sir, I intervened. I shouldn't have intervened. But I said, if you just go on about 6:30, 7 in the morning, go to these sites, I think you can probably, see some open appointments. And he says, I don't have a computer. I have my phone. I'm calling the phone number. It just shattered me. I said, wow, that's the issue. Here is an elder gentleman. And I wanted to ring the interns, the very good person who was trying to sort of help folks. Why didn't he just take this individual then? And so I'm just wondering, can you give us a snapshot, if you would, of the things that are not working? We talk a lot about reaching in these communities, but here was a case where we had an elderly gentleman and his wife in the car, been trying to get this vaccine, couldn't get on the list because they kept calling a phone number that wasn't calling back.
Well, that's one of the issues that we've been addressing. Of course, we have to continue to work on hesitancy, but what we're not really seeing, that particularly with older persons who are dying to get this, and they literally dying to get this, and they can't navigate that system. And so we're seeing more and more local communities, more social organizations, churches, more of those sort of, or where people have more access to getting the vaccine, who are trying to help them to navigate that system and, bringing it to the community rather than having them to have to try to go to try to get on to an appointment or what have you. So we've seen a real increase in that happen over the last couple of months. And so hesitancy, we are working very hard on those issues. But for the most part, we're seeing many more people who are interested in where can I get it, how can I get it, when can I get it? And we're doing everything through our project to reach those people, to try to make sure that these social organizations and partners we're working with can help these people in navigating that process. Thank
you. And I want to tell everybody, I was very nice to that person sitting there at the desk processing. I was not tough, but I felt very angry at the time. Dr. Blayer, I don't know how to phrase this. I often think about, when we do events, what if gravity was working like it used to? What if the country was wrestling with vaccines and production and manufacturing for a 4 or 5 year period of time as opposed to a 1 year period of time? And I just can't imagine the impact on this country. And I just love to, you're sort of, again, a Back to the Future guy. Can you sort of tell us what has changed so dramatically in this moment that you think is important about the science, the chemistry, the manufacturing side of this?
Oh, thank you very much for this opportunity to be here with you at the Hill. I think that we need to remember for a moment where we're coming from. A vaccine development program takes about 15 years from start to finish.
Did you say 1.5 years?
Yes.
Just wanted to underscore that.
A manufacturing process to get into production and deployment at the scale that we are seeing, it would take about 5 to 6 years at least for skilled teams. In 1 year, there are 13 vaccines out. It has been unprecedented. We have new technologies like mRNA technology coming up with amazing results. This has never been seen before. So in terms of what actually pulls that together is collaboration. I've never seen in my technical expertise any event where regulators were working so closely with governments and industry to make sure that reviews, questions, bottlenecks have been assessed to maintain the highest level of quality that is needed for pharmaceuticals, but in an extreme accelerate way. I've never seen companies taking risks so quickly and ramping up productions without even clinical data. So this has been an amazing moment, I think, for manufacturing to be able to ramp up so rapidly with such an amount that it will change things really forever.
Well, thank you. I want to take an audience question in a moment, but I want to ask you each to think about another element. You know, Secretary Romero, one of the other questions, I interviewed Dr. Redfield of the CDC, the previous director in the past, or Dr. Anthony Fauci or others, Bill Frist, the former Senate Majority Leader in the Senate, about, you know, pandemics, what people saw coming, and what every one of them said, no matter what side of the political aisle they may have tilted, is we have long underinvested in our public health infrastructure. And so I guess my question is about this moment, you know, Dr. Romero, you know, is there a way of taking the angst and tension of this moment and kind of building something that won't fall down as soon as everybody's attention goes away? I mean, is that a fair question? How can we make public health infrastructure a higher social priority and one that is fair and inclusive? I'd love to get all of your thoughts on that before we go to the audience. Dr. Romero?
Sure. No, I agree with you 100%. Now is the time to take advantage of this. We have proven what public health can do. This is the moment to invest in the infrastructure of our public health systems. You know, we here at Arkansas saw this also as the moment to begin to improve our IT. We have expanded our IT. Our laboratory system for diagnosis has expanded dramatically from only running 5 tests a day to now being able to process close to 4,000 tests a day for COVID. And all of that technology is going to move forward. As we start to see these mutants, we're beginning, or these variants, we're starting to do our own sequencing, and hopefully we'll eventually actually get into the molecular phylogenetics of these so that we can track them. So now is the time for us to invest in these, and we hope that legislatures and governors around the states and at a national level will see that this is important and provide us with the infrastructure to do that and the funding to support this with personnel. We need personnel to come into this field and to support the efforts that we're doing. Do you feel they're going that way? I do. We have had a significant influx of funding. We are using that funding, but again, I hope it's not just now. I hope it carries into the future. You know, I've been in medicine long enough to see how we have slowly dismantled the public health infrastructure of our country, and you know, it's low-hanging fruit for savings, but in the long run. Without this system, we're at risk for future pandemics and future local outbreaks. Right. Karen Jones?
Oh, I just feel like this is, if COVID-19 hasn't taught us anything, it's put a highlight on inequity in health and access to health care. And so our public health system has to be improved so that we don't have to go through the pandemics and have it impact communities as much as possible. If you are an employer, you know how this has impacted you. One of the things we've started is the COVID-19 Count Me In, which is a campaign to get people to show and to demonstrate. And we think that will will provide vaccine confidence. And once I think people really understand what's going on, we'll see more of an input, but it is really time for us to invest into our public health system.
Real quick, Karen, before I jump to Dr. Blayer, do you think the level of mistrust between communities of color and science and vaccines is diminishing or increasing?
Well, obviously being African American, I'm quite aware and very sensitive to our community's concern on medical experimentation and the history there. So there is that hesitancy, and we've had to fight it. I myself was very hesitant to take the vaccine. But once I got the information and I knew that it was important for my organization and our project to reach people who had that hesitancy, I'm seeing a different change. So the calls we were getting earlier about, oh no, I'm not going to do this, have changed now to where, how, when can I get my vaccine? Help me out. So yes, I am seeing it. And the Black community isn't any different from any other community in terms of hesitation.
I bet Jay Timmons is watching this right now, so I'm going to ask him to send you a red and yellow ribbon. So, Dr. Blayer, your thoughts?
Oh, I got it. I got it. I got my vaccine.
Okay. Dr. Blayer?
Yes, thank you for this. I totally agree what has been said. I would like also to give a quick update also on the international cooperation level. This pandemic has really triggered structures like the COVAX facility, which is a joint effort between WHO, Gavi, and CEPI, another global player, to make sure that low and middle income countries can actually get access to vaccines. We are already taking that one step further and learning from this pandemic to work in how can we make sure that manufacturing capacity could be then developed worldwide. So it's definitely a hot topic for us.
Well, I have a quick question very fast from George Lecaire. George?
I was wondering, is there a danger to manufacture two different vaccines in the same plant?
Give that one to Simone Blayer. Is that a danger?
And the answer is no. For pharmaceutical regulations, and I've been inspecting plants, in the last 20 years, there is a very strict process of line changing. So between one campaign and another, there is a whole accounting that needs to be done on every single material that goes in and out. There is a complete changeover. So there have, up to my knowledge, there has never been any issue on cross-contamination on different vaccines.
I'm going to leave it there. I just want to thank Karyne Jones, President and CEO of the National Caucus on Center on Black Agents. She's also a convening member of the COVID-19 Vaccine Education and Equity Project. Dr. José Romero, Secretary of Health for the state of Arkansas, Chair of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices at the CDC. Very busy place right now. And Dr. Simone Blayer, Global Head of Chemistry, Manufacturing and Control at the Center for Vaccine Innovation and Access at FAAP. Great conversation. Thank you all for your time and thoughts today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having us.